Hello, in this video I'm going to be looking at the Vickers MBT Mk.3. This isn't going to be a full review as I've already done that and you can check it out on, well, YouTube and the website, but I'm just going to be going over the basic traits of this tank and basically some gameplay. So this will be available in an event starting today, not completely for free, but essentially what you get is quite a big discount for the purchasing price of the Vickers MBT. I believe you can get it down to under 6,000 gold, which is definitely not a bad deal, as this is a pretty good tank. However, you do still have to grind the event and actually get wins. It does depend on how long the event is. I don't have any information on this, but I do know it's not completely for free. You do have to spend some gold. Essentially, what you're getting is a discount on a pretty nice tank. So very quickly, I'll talk about what this tank is all about and essentially armor. So you can see here against medium tank penetration in tier 8, upper plate completely impenetrable, turret the same thing, it has a big lower plate and a big cupola. Switching to premium ammo, almost no change. There's a small weak point next to the gun mantlet and under the gun mantlet, but turret overall, upper plate overall, no change. You can also see its side armor is pretty good except for this weak point under the turret. So switching to heavy tank penetration or tier 9 medium tank penetration, we can see here no difference. Very strong upper plate, very strong turret, almost no weak points except for the cupola and lower plate. Switching to premium ammo, which is 285 APCR, very high penetration. You can still see the upper plate is very red for a medium tank. Yes, this is a medium tank, not a heavy tank. And you can see even when angling just a little bit, the upper plate becomes impenetrable for this 285 APCR. Of course, when head on, it's a bit easier to go through, but you can still see turret overall fairly reliable, upper plate still very good. Remember, a tier 8 medium tank with, 275 to 295 millimeters of upper plate armor. So you do have to watch out for the lower plate and the cupola as they are large and the lower plate is prone to hesh, but you can actually side scrape in this tank, which is pretty cool. Very quickly, I'll go over its stats. Essentially what this tank is good for is its great armor, of course, though watch out for the weak points. It also has quite an accurate gun with good premium and HE penetration. I believe the HE is actually hesh, yes. So it does have quite good ammo, except the standard ammo, which is 190 APCR. Very low penetration on that. DPM definitely not bad, and it has 320 alpha, which does make it really quite a comfortable combination of alpha damage, DPM, and reload time. Of course, combine that with good accuracy and gun depression, it's just an overall nice combination. Where this tank sort of falls down is its mobility. It has great top speed and good power to weight ratio on hard terrain, but because it has 1.3 medium terrain mobility, its acceleration falls down to, I believe, 15.7 on medium terrain, which really isn't that impressive for a medium tank, but it's not bad at all, especially when you do consider the armor of the Vickers MBT. But yeah, I'll quickly jump into some gameplay I had in this tank. The first battle is on Alpenstadt. You will notice that it looks a bit different. That's because I have a mod installed. Do let me know if you prefer to see the game looking like sort of a dawn or dusk look on maps, or if I should switch back to the vanilla look of the maps. But in this game, it does sort of show off some of what's good on this tank, some of what's bad. I do make a few stupid errors, and I do have an excuse. I was sick at this time, and this was the first game in quite early morning. So if you do see me do something stupid, yeah, I do have a bit of an excuse. But here you can see I'm sitting hull down against the STG. I am going to take a blind shot right here, as I do think he's come around the corner, but he hasn't. So now I'm going to poke back up and just sit here waiting for my reload, but you can see that STG, of course, with his good aim time, does manage to just snap in a shot onto my cupola, and despite being the lowest penetration tier 8 medium, he has no issues to go through this cupola, which I believe is only 60 or 100 millimeters thick. But you can see the Skoda has pushed around, so I'm going to go down and put a shot into him. You can sort of see the nice, comfortable alpha damage of this tank working here. 384 into the Skoda, that is quite a nice roll for 320 alpha. But you can also see, despite having 320, it's not punished by a terribly long reload, as 9 seconds is pretty decent. So here I see the Progetto pushing off to the side. I'm thinking I can maybe get a shot into him and help out my Eagle 7, but then I see he's not really in shooting range, so I'm going to push forward. But now, seeing his rear, I'm going to use that Hesh, which has 400 alpha with nice penetration, to just finish off the Progetto and guarantee the damage. So once again, against this STG, you can see if your weak points are showing, then they have no issue of going through your armor. Your upper plate is very strong, your turret is quite reliable, but if they can hit your cupola, hit your lower plate, then neither of those are really going to be that useful. So here you can see I do use AP there. Probably should have used the Hesh just to confirm the damage and make sure I finish this SP1C with one shot. But I do manage to, well, just put in a second shell and finish him. Against this WZ-120, I'm going to use premium ammo just because this tank's standard penetration is low and I want to make sure I can actually go through his front. Now here I do make a mistake. I'm going to cap base B when I really shouldn't. I should push forward and help my AMX M4 while we both still have some hit points and DPM to share. But instead I capped the base because I saw that they were on pretty high cap points, but in the end that isn't relevant because the IS-5 finishing off my AMX M4 means that we are likely to lose anyway. And then here you can see the low penetration of this tank. I do try go for the hull of the IS-5 instead of the turret, and I make a bad shot. So that one is 100% on me. And by the way, this was before the update, so the IS-5 does still have 270 heat penetration in this version, not the bugged version with 217. And you can see against the lower plate of the IS-7, I did have to use premium ammo because my penetration on standard is very low. But unfortunately, he does just finish me off, so we do lose the battle. So you can see 3000 damage, 625 blocked, not really blocking a massive amount of damage, but I wasn't really using the armor too much in that battle. Did make a decent amount of credits. The next battle is on Normandy. This one, again, I am top tier, facing against tier 7s. And this map, I'm going to go towards the base B ridge, just because this tank is quite proficient when it is hull down. Once again though, you do have to watch out for that cupola. That is one of the biggest downsides of this tank. The cupola is both very large and very weak. Unfortunately, against a Tornvang as well, I'm not really going to be out hull downing the Tornvang, so I'm going to decide to flank around and try and get his side. Also, seeing the Death Star spotted at the top gives me a sort of hint that there's probably no one at the back of the map and it would be okay to push this Tornvang, as my 53 TP also seems to decide to do the same. So here you can see I'm going to use the Hesh, which has 65 penetration, which is a nice increase over the normal 53, and get 414 onto the side of the Tornvang. going to switch back to standard ammo just to confirm the damage, as he was moving downhill backwards quite quickly, so I want to just confirm that it would indeed penetrate. But now the teams have sort of swapped sides. We're on the enemy team's side and they have pushed all the way down towards our spawn. So I'm going to push up and try and get base B and push the enemies back a bit. So here against this CDC, you'll see I get baited and shoot his track, which of course, if you know about the CDC, the track overhangs over the front of the hull by a lot, so I do no damage to him at all. You can see against the IS-2SH the low penetration of this tank. 190 APCR is not great at all, but you can also see the pretty good accuracy and aim time do allow me to hit his lower plate quite easily. Another thing about this tank, it does seem to get ammo rack damaged a fair bit. That's why after playing it initially I have switched to a second repair kit instead of using speed boost. I use the speed boost by default just to sort of gauge whether a tank does indeed need extra repair kit or something like that. And this tank does. And you can see here my gunner gets injured. But now I'm going to use the good side armour of this tank to side scrape against the Panther, which is one of the highest penetration tier 7 mediums. You can see I managed to bounce 2 of his shots off the side of the hull, but then he does manage to penetrate the front and kill my driver. So now it's just the CDC left and I have a dead driver, so I'm just going to try get as much damage as I can. I could have used the Hesh there, but just wanted to confirm getting the last bit in. So that game, 2,800 damage, 320 blocks. Again, not using the armor too much, but you could sort of see side scraping a little bit against the Panther there. It does work out if enemies don't shoot that weak point on the side. And by the way, that weak point under the turret ring isn't the weakest. A lot of the time enemies will need to be using APCR, I mean premium ammo, to go through that weak point. So the Vickers MBT, is it worth it? Well, considering this event isn't completely free, that's kind of for you to decide. You will need to spend a bit of gold, well, the minimum is 6,000 if you do grind the event to the end, essentially. But if you don't want to grind to the end, you will be needing to spend a bit more gold. Of course, this tank is a little bit unique, considering that most of the other tanks with 310 to 320 alpha either don't have the gun depression or don't have the armor that this has, but that doesn't necessarily mean this is the most interesting tank to play. At least for me personally, I do prefer playing the Titan 54D or the Object 274A over this one, as they are just a bit more interesting for me personally. But still, it's quite a good tank, so it is worth picking up if you do indeed want it. But yeah, that is it for the Vickers MBT. Thanks for watching.